Hello, everybody. This is Tom Trimmingham, and this is another episode of We Are M&R. And today I'm talking with Sean from Acme Print Company. Sean, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your company and where you're at?
Sure. Uh, Sean Flores, Acme Print Company, as you mentioned. We're in Pembroke, Massachusetts. We've been in business about 8 years. I do have a co-founder. His name is Chris. He's actually out back running our Gauntlet 3 at the moment. And I'm happy to be here. I've been doing a lot of these lately, and I'm happy to share our story and advice or struggles or whatever you may have for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So just to kind of get it out of the way, what's it been like for you the past couple months? I kind of have to get that out of the way and just give us a recap real quick if you don't mind.
Of course, yeah. Basically, for us, for the life of our company, for years now, we've been getting more and more, or deeper and deeper, I should say, into the entertainment industry. And for us, the entertainment industry was hit first, I believe, in terms of shutdowns and the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So we actually, like, in terms of like local printing in New England and East Coast and Massachusetts, the virus hadn't really got here and taken hold and taken shape as much as it did, further out west, we believe. And we had tours that were supposed to start up at the end of February that were suddenly being canceled and postponed and all that kind of thing. So we really had a lot of, foresight into what was happening. And we were able to, kind of make some adjustments. It hasn't been easy, and we're definitely not back on our feet like we would have hoped, because the line of work that we've been in for so long, I don't see it coming back for at least another year. And we hope not, but I mean, just kind of joining arm in arm at a rock and roll show or a hockey game or something, I don't see that happening really anytime soon. So we're starting to kind of shift gears a little bit and try and find some work that isn't necessarily entertainment related.
Yeah, just real quick to kind of dive into that a little bit. Have you talked to the bands and stuff in your area? And I'm sure you have. And then other people that are, they basically rely on touring for their livelihood, I would think, right? So I mean,
100%.
what's
Yeah.
that like?
I spent 10 years on the road full time working for a band before I retired from the road and got to, start our own print business. So for me, our whole network is built on friends that I met on the road and people that I talk to regularly. And most of our customers, like I said, are in entertainment, and, talking to all these people about, how they're affected and this and that. I also used to work at a local house of blues here. I was a stagehand for many years. And, my network of people and my family and what's around me is real, deep rooted in rock and roll. So I could see how it affected everybody, and we were able to kind of talk to each other and kind of figure out ways to get around this and kind of keep things moving. And for me, we were fortunate with Dropkick Murphys, for example. They were one of the first bands to really lead the forefront of live streaming during this pandemic. They're just a couple weeks into the shutdown. People don't know how long it's going to last. You used to go into parades at that time of year, the whole bit. And they did a live broadcast, through all platforms on their socials on St. Patrick's Day, and 10 million people tuned in to watch it. So that's what we're seeing now. Things are shifting that way. And, for a screen printer, that results in mail order sales. We print for Dropkick Murphys merch company specifically. And, we needed to, stay open and help keep their inventory up, fully stocked to keep up with the demand of what's taking place on the internet.
That's definitely a challenge for sure. And I also saw on your Instagram that you've been doing some benefits and different things. You want to speak on that for just a minute? Like
For
some of the stuff
sure.
you do?
We didn't invent that process by any means. What happened for us specifically was that we weren't supposed to be open. We're still not really supposed to be open. We're in Massachusetts. Today was the first day that our governor is allowing businesses to start opening, and there's nothing specifically on his rap sheet about printer or screen printer. So, we've kind of just been working as we go here and to keep up with the demand of people who need it. So other companies that we are friendly with, mostly through social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, whatever. King Screen in Virginia is one of the companies that we talked to Scott a bunch about this. There's another local company up here called Northeast Apparel. They're in Lowell, about an hour and 15 minutes from here, and they're raising tens of thousands of dollars for local businesses, whether it's a restaurant or a bar or a tattoo shop or you name it. And in our specific area, nobody else was running any sort of campaign about this. And I think what a lot of people kind of thought about this particular movement of t-shirt fundraising was that it was kind of quarantined to this area, or like, I got a foothold on this neighborhood or that state or whatever. And we didn't necessarily believe that. We're printing shirts for companies out of Florida right now, the other end of the coast. But we couldn't sit back and watch all this money be raised, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars for other businesses that need help. We need help too. I'm not going to sit here and shy away from the fact that we're not making $2 or $3 a shirt, because it'd be foolish to do so. I actually disagree with the shops who kind of hide behind that. This is not only a help for the restaurant, but it's a help for us as well, and we're trying to gain more colleagues and everything else out of it. So these hundreds of people that are ordering shirts for, let's say, Stinky Monkey Tattoos have never heard of our company ever. And they just came to our web store and they bought a shirt, and we took that $10 and we gave it directly back to the Stinky Monkey Tattoos. And we're working on building our relationship from there, is how we're looking at it. And as of this morning, we've actually paid out over $12,000 to businesses near and far. We have several that are in our neighborhood. We have a lot of bar rooms and venues that are in the city of Boston and Cambridge. We have tattoo shops that are down as far as Orlando and Miami that joined us, and as well as other places all over Massachusetts. And we just put the money in the hands of where it's supposed to go pretty quick.
That's great. Anytime you can help fellow printers or other businesses, and especially in this kind of industry, because a lot of people don't know how to help themselves a lot. One thing
Pretty
about your company that I noticed right away was, and maybe it's the tie-in with your band experience that you've had over the years, you just seem really good at producing iconic artwork. If you know what I mean. It's like a certain type of artwork, not only that works really well on a t-shirt, but works really well for reproduction, if that makes sense. And I think is that something that ties into your background, that you knew how to do that, or is that part of how you started?
That's a little skewed, unfortunately. We actually don't develop a lot of artwork here, almost
Oh,
none.
okay.
To be honest with you,
Okay.
we do. You can see this guy behind me, Shane. He
Hmm.
does the bulk of the setup here, and he's qualified and he's a talented guy and whatnot. But the bulk of our company has just gravitated and turned into contract printing. Almost since we
Okay.
started. Giving you a real solid background on the company without really getting off topic here, is that when we started this company, there was several other local print shops in the area. I mean, we were next door to one. I'm talking 20
Yeah.
feet away. There was another screen printer, and we promised them that we weren't going to step on their toes, and the whole bit. We have a customer base, which was rock and roll. And then from there, we found it a little bit harder to survive just having a press in a small shop and no sign in the building that said screen printing. Meanwhile, all the pizza places and tow truck companies, whatever, were going into their door, and we were looking for rock and roll. The next part of that is, in rock and roll, you got a lot of merch companies that are looking, hunting out and seeking out those bands. What we quickly realized is a lot of the merch companies out there do not have print facilities, but they need somebody like us to print it. Somebody like me, who spent a long time on the road, that can handle the logistics and knows what it takes, how to package the boxes so they're going to survive, and all those logistics to getting the box out the door. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot about how it needs to be received as well. And we actually just kind of stepped right into contract printing with merch companies, and they're the ones who develop that artwork. They send it to us. They spent months talking to the bands, sourcing artists from all over the world to create this, that, or the other thing. What's awesome for us is that they trust us, that we can get the print on the shirt right on with what it's actually designed and what it's supposed to look for. We've had a very good track record with that, and minimal, bands coming back saying they're not happy. Over the course of 8 years and hundreds of thousands of shirts printed, it's very rare we hear that somebody's not excited about the product we got.
That makes perfect sense, really, Sean, because I think, you see it, stuff gets honed a lot from merchandise companies and then brought to you guys. what do you feel makes your company unique in that sense? Is it kind of like that focus on bands and that sort of niche, or what do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that we're overall unique. I don't really think that we're reinventing the wheel or doing all that much differently than other companies. One thing I certainly never like to say is that we're doing something better than other companies, because you don't know anybody's real circumstances of what they're working with and what they're trying to pull off. What I do believe makes our company a little bit more unique than your average screen printer is that deep-rooted touring career that I had before going back to screen printing. I left high school. I was screen printing in high school. I went right to a mom and pop shop and I worked there for 8 years, which is when I got basically poached out of that screen printing and graphic design job that I had for so long and put into a touring career with a band. And that particular band, they brought me all over the world, and I've been able to. I'm a knowledge guy. I'll watch the How It's Made marathon on Sci-Fi for 2 weeks straight if I can. And I basically was able to take all those things I've learned, and like seeing how shirts are made in Australia, or seeing how things are done in Europe, and kind of combine that into our own business, and taking this happens like this in this region for a reason. This happens like that and that reason. Plus the touring aspect of it in terms of vans all the way up to buses and tractor trailers, getting the merch out our door and into the hands, that it can be counted in by the venue and there's not going to be a mistake, because a lot of screen printing shops might not understand the hands that it goes through, leaving the building, and how that paper trail needs to exist, and itemization and all that kind of stuff. It just comes naturally for me because I saw the other side of it, the receiving side, far before we started working on the outgoing side. And that one, that's a unique factor I think you find here, is that all that experience I've gathered, I'm able to put into our company.
Yeah, now this might be a sideline that whether you want to touch on it or not, uh, we can to whatever degree you want. What is it like running a business with a partner versus being a single owner? Because
I
think
I
that,
love it. I love
okay.
it. When we started this business, Chris and I, he was the first person I went to when we used to work at that mom and pop shop that I mentioned earlier. The way that our relationship, we hit it off instantly, and him and I were the night crew. So most of the place would leave at 5 o'clock, and my wife was in college at the time. I wasn't. He was in college at the time, so he could only work at night, and I'm a workaholic and I'm willing to work to the wee hours of the night. So we just hit it off working nights together. We realized that we both had a love of music. We realized that we both had a love of screen printing, and like really the rest is history. It was actually kind of a bum out for me when I left the company, because I almost feel like in a way that I left him behind. So when I left the company, I gave him all of my customer work that I had built up, and he was working off the clock at night printing those same band t-shirts while I was out circling the globe with these other guys, and kind of kept the non-existent business going, supplying just a handful of bands for years. So when I finally retired, I called him up and I said, look, we need to do this, because it was a dream of ours going all the way back to those early days, at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, going, man, wouldn't it be great if we just had our own company? And we dove right into it. And to this day, I do not believe that this company exists without Chris. And I'm willing to bet that he would say the same thing about me. And we have a great partnership. Like any other relationship, there's good days and bad days. We both have kind of opposite routes to get to the same solution, but that complementary aspect is kind of what makes our company flow, because we're both after the same goal, and he's got one way of getting there and I get the other, and then we can kind of debate on which one's the right one, and you kind of make it work. But it's been something. He's somebody that I trust, I'm somebody that he trusts, and everything's black and white. I handle a lot of the logistics of the company. I'm doing the bookkeeping and the invoicing, and customer acquisition, and just all that work, the customer service and all that. Chris runs the printing. He's one of the best printers I've ever seen in my life. Any print shop on earth would be grateful to have Chris and what he can do with a machine. And he keeps all that flowing out there. And a lot of the good prints you see are Chris. Those are his babies. If we get to getting a couple of our pictures on this later on, you'll see some of the prints that he did, and he's the guy that works the magic out there. It's great.
It's good to have somebody with that can support you in a different type of, I think where people have a lot of problems tends to be if they're both have strengths in the same area. You know, it's like, and you kind of, then they kind of can push against each other. But no, I think that's great. Would you say, as far as hurdles, would you say this is probably the biggest one with the COVID-19 thing, or is there other ones that you think of when you think of like roadblocks or different challenges you've had?
Well, you know, like this is obviously a gigantic hurdle that nobody saw coming, and we can all agree on that. No matter what your business is, it doesn't matter. So you know, this is a hurdle that just like everybody else out there, you have to deal with. We're dealing with it the best way that we can deal with it. You know, we got our, you know, our funding from the government, and whatnot. We were fortunate in that regard. I was incredibly punctual on getting all that information in so we can try and get by. Our core of employees, there's 11 total people here on payroll. There was. We got some core people back when we were able to hire them back. It was obviously unfortunate having to lay people off. And we're really happy that those people were like, you know, were willing to come back, because a lot of people in this time right now are making more money on unemployment than they would be coming back. So just having a core bunch of people that were willing to come back and help us is amazing. But overall hurdles of the business, I always kind of considered our biggest hurdles were basically rapid growth. You know, talking to my tax lady and, you know, like the people that we work with, and trying to figure out how to make this company not only survive, but thrive moving forward as well. We have been go, 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 grow, 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 grow since we started. We started in a 600 square foot storefront, and we are now in a 6,000 square foot industrial complex, with, you know, the most state-of-the-art machinery in the area as far as we're concerned, especially M&R equipment. You know, and we're proud of that. And we've been growing, 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 trying to keep up with the demand of what has come in. But what has been kind of lost and left in the dust was, is it all worth it? So the biggest hurdle for me is scaling back the go, go, go and making that work that we're doing more viable for the company. Because, you know, as great as the work we do and as fast as we can get it done and huge numbers and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of times you look at it like there's little to show for it. So that's the biggest hurdle, is making sure that we can sustain our company moving forward, you know, expand profitability and all that kind of stuff, and maybe let some jobs pass that, you know, oh man, I really want to print. I'm making up something. You're like, oh, Iron Maiden's, you know, opportunity, you know, but if Iron Maiden's only paying 20 cents a print, I'm just going to let it go. Whereas a year ago, we're like, we have to do that. We'll make it work. We'll figure out how to squeeze those numbers. I've now realized that it's impossible. So
That makes sense, because I think, you know, and that might be one of the tips for other printers, is to really look at what's the most profitable business you can right now, and, you know, and rebuild in a sense, like as you come back, rebuild around business that makes sense versus taking everything. Because I've talked to other people about that, and they're kind of along the same lines as, you know, we used to take anything that came in the door, we would just say yes.
yep.
Now we go, because then if I say yes to this person and I only have limited staff, then I got to say no to other people that might be better deal, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's where we're at. Yep, for sure.
and so how much, I know you guys have a pretty strong social media presence. How important is that social media and maybe merch stores or that sort of thing to you guys?
Well, I've always kind of had a love-hate relationship with social media in general. The first one is I don't consider that we have all that much followers, you know, and people that really pay attention to us. It's been growing lately, which is good. And I think that's because there's a lot of people online, and definitely with the fundraiser campaign that we talked about earlier, has definitely gained, you know, some followers and whatnot in the social aspect. And the other problem with us in socials is a lot of the work that we're printing, I cannot advertise that we're doing. We have non-disclosures with a lot of these merch companies that they don't want anybody knowing that we touched this particular job. There's some real sacred stuff that we're printing for, and these people are people that we've worked with for years that have treated us very well, but they don't really want people, you know, us brag, and that's fine. You have to respect that as a contract printer. It's really the same thing as being a contract printer and telling, you know, going right around the guy that brought you the job to the end customer and saying, by the way, you know, cut out the middleman and come to me next time. We don't do that. We don't want to do that. We're not poachers. I don't have a sales force. So a lot of what you see on social media is the bare minimum of what we can share. we love sharing what we print. We love sharing what we're capable of doing. It's real hit or miss when we're actually able to do it. There's obviously been times where we're too busy to pay attention to social media at all. And that also, this sometimes, maybe 2-3 weeks where we haven't even put anything up. One, because of the NDA stuff. Two, because we've been too busy to deal with it. But as of late, I've been really making an attempt to, put a lot more content up there and keep it moving. It's kind of working in that sense. And it actually is very important. It really shares the word. Even if it's a core handful of people that are constantly following up with you and keeping tabs on what you're doing and liking this or that, that's great, because at least word's moving around. Like, we're not out there trying to get shares and likes and all this kind of stuff. We're just putting up what we do, and looking for feedback is usually good, and sometimes you just put it up and you move on with life. But it's without a doubt a very important aspect of the thing, and hopefully we can keep ours growing.
It's important, but it can take too much time. I know guys and girls that spend an enormous amount of time on social media without a lot of return. So it's
Yeah.
a love-hate thing, I think, for a lot of people, whether they'll admit it or not. But I think being good at it is that balance in some ways, right? It's that balance
Oh,
between
for
getting
sure. I mean,
out of it.
Dylan.
Yeah,
Dylan's
100%.
one of the, I mean, he's got more screen printing followers than anybody out there, as far as I know. I talk to
Yeah,
him all the time through
yeah,
socials. I never met him in person, but we've been talking for years. It's great.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. So basically, what do you think as far as tips for other printers, or what are you looking forward to? Because I hear a lot of stories now about things opening up possibly in some areas. Other areas are still shut down, or they're still trying to figure things out, like you said, with the live streaming with bands and stuff. What are your thoughts as far as moving forward for the rest of the year?
Well, the main thing moving forward that a lot of it's a turned into a necessity, and in all honesty, I was way against it for weeks and weeks and weeks. Is the face mask movement. We're printing a couple hundred face masks a day in here right now, and at the first, like, I felt like we were a couple of hours into shutdown, and I saw CAD drawings for face mask palettes, and these are going to be released tomorrow, and buy face mask palettes. And I was like, what are we talking about? I was legit like, we don't, isn't it a little early, is my first opinion of that. And then followed right on the heels of that is when I started seeing the t-shirt manufacturers coming up with face masks, Bella, Tultex, and I'm looking at them and I go, I wouldn't buy either one of those. And I'm looking at both of them, and it was my own opinion. And I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and things like that, people, the community, a lot of rookies, a lot of high end, bigger shops than even us. We all kind of talked amongst each other, and I was really against it for weeks. I was calling it fool's gold, and just kind of like an old school, bonanza of, and I don't want nothing to do with this thing. And it was because I didn't believe that they were doing anything, like in terms of protection or for this person you're talking to or yourself, and I just wanted nothing to do with it. Since then, obviously, this has been evolving. Things have changed, and in Massachusetts, for example, you have to have a face mask on out in public. Doesn't matter if you're walking down the sidewalk or going to the grocery store, you have to have it. And the day that they announced that it was mandatory here, I should say the day before they announced it was mandatory is when Bayside, USA made t-shirt company out of California, released their mask. My opinion on that particular mask was that they did not rush it to market like some of the other t-shirt companies did. First of all, they offered 9 or 10 colors. That was unheard of the day it came out. The second thing was that it was a triple ply t-shirt material, which is better than the single and the double ply that was already available. So we rolled the dice on it, and I bought 25 to test it. Then our governor announced it was mandatory. Then I jumped in with both feet, and I ordered about 1,000 masks in random colors. And like I said, we're doing anywhere between 25 and 150 masks a day right now. As businesses are starting to reopen, our government today announced the guidelines of who can open and when, and the rules to how you need to open. Everybody needs a face mask, and the rules don't stay that it needs to be a certain N95 or this or that. You just have to something covering your face. So that's where a lot of businesses are starting to look into. Let's get face masks that are branded and have our staff look in unison. They all, it's that consistency. There's a local grocery store that's near us that you walk in and every single person is wearing some haggard, weird, different sizes. This one's a surgical mask. This guy's got one that looks like grandma's quilt. That one's got a sock with elastics around it. So they ordered, 50 masks just to outfit the whole staff, that they look together. We're all in this together, as people have been saying. Our fundraiser campaign is unity, and that's where I think is going to be, at least it's going to be short-lived. I think there's going to be a point where society catches up, overseas catches up. It's going to be able to be done cheaper somewhere else. All that. But for now, we're doing a lot of face masks, and that seems to be the movement going forward. And then outside of that, things are going to start tinkering back. It's whether it's uniforms or like way down the road, sports leagues will come back. Mail order and band merch hasn't stopped. That stuff's been happening. There's a lot less dated tour material than there used to be, but people are making event-specific merch. The Dropkick Murphys did thousands of shirts to supply what they sold during that St. Patrick's Day broadcast they did. So for us right now, merch has been steady. We're getting into the face mask thing. We've been doing a lot of it. It's going to be here for the next couple weeks, maybe a couple months, and then we'll see what happens after that.
I was really torn in the beginning on the face mask, like you were saying. And one thing that turned around for me was I realized that if you don't have that appearance, if you have the appearance exactly like what you just said, as a company, public facing, you look like you're not taking precautions for your workers, right? You look like you're letting your workers take the precautions for themselves. So whether companies want to or not kind of dive into it, just from an appearance standpoint, it does really help visually. As somebody coming into the company, you're like, oh, these guys are, as a company, they're taking care of it. So that's an interesting twist on it. But I definitely have seen it from that side where it's really worked for people. Well, I want to respect your time here. I really appreciate it, Sean. Is there any tips as far as what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Maybe they can't print right now and they need some help printing, or, they want to talk to you about what you've gone through. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, unfortunately, we're like a couple of days, maybe a week or so premature. We actually been involved in a company rebrand for a few months now. The website is this close to being done. The best place to find us is definitely on socials right now. Our Instagram handle and Facebook handle are simply Acme Print Co. CO. And you can get us through there, whether it's messaging or whatnot. Our website is acmeprintco.com. But I don't even think it's active right now. There used to be a placeholder up there, but we're so close to it being done. He's in the conversion of ready to launch the thing. And that's the best place to get in touch with us right now, is one of those mediums. And of course, our email address is blasted all over that stuff, and we're easy to find in that regard.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, thank you.